Cinema Classics is sponsored by the Gateway Film Center and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. You can listen to full shows online at wcbe.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics, and we're doing a classic.
Boy, is he a classic.
I am ashamed to say that I didn't really realize this actor's greatness, true greatness, until very recently. And I'm not sure what tripped that trigger, but I've been on a Gene Hackman bender of late.
Well, you know, think back. Over the years that you and I have been together, almost 20,
Yeah.
there probably hasn't been a year when we haven't admired Gene Hackman in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And since it's been almost 20 years since he's been on the screen, we've been missing him.
Yeah, for sure. He retired. Do you have the movie? It was like Welcome to Mooseport or
Yes,
something.
it's exactly the name of it.
He did not go out on a high note, but there other greater performers have gone on out on lower notes. I guess it was recently I watched for the first time Mississippi Burning.
Okay, good
with
film.
Willem Dafoe
Yeah.
and Gene Hackman. And I'm watching this movie, and I just suddenly am struck. You know, like you said, I mean, Gene Hackman has been a part of our movie-going lives for so many years, popping up here and there, headlining movies, offering Oscar-winning support to other movies. Here he's in a lead, and I'm just watching it, and I just was fascinated by how much he accomplishes, how in little gestures, how much he can convey with just his eyes, a smirk, a laugh, changing from a laugh to a scowl. Like, it was like watching a maestro orchestrate, conduct an orchestra with his face.
I'll tell you, he's a 6'1", former Marine. So he initially looks like a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
Been in a lot of violent movies that actually he threatened just to quit movies over the fact that he was in so many violent ones. But for me, it's his sneer. It's that one little gesture of his lips, and it just says so much about how he disdains the other character.
That's interesting. His sneer. That's great, because I was thinking it's this laugh, this smile that presents itself at these weird times,
yes.
And then disappears. It's a very, I don't know. It's a fascinating technique. I don't know if I'm sure that an actor as great as he is experiencing emotions in the moment, but this emotion that he has, this laugh in, this smile, is very disarming for both the characters he's interacting with and the spectator watching the film. We've now said the phrase little gesture a couple times, which reminded me I need to tell you this anecdote. I read a little bit about him, and he said that his father left their family when he was very young. And
14, I think.
Yeah, or even, I'm not sure, was it 14?
Okay, I think so, but anyway.
But anyway, he was a young man, young child, maybe, I don't know. His father leaves. He said that he told some kind of lie about he was going away, he'd be back, whatever. And he said he distinctly remembers them watching him go. And his dad gave him this little wave and then disappeared out of his life forever. And he said, and that was when I knew the power of small gestures.
There are a couple of things that I remember very well.
Mm-hmm.
That he roomed with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, they were
roommates.
They were roommates. They studied together somewhere.
Yes, and at the Playhouse, and they were both voted least likely to succeed.
Now, isn't that
it's
interesting?
Wonderful,
because they come up. Both of those guys, their big breaks were 1967.
Exactly, both of them that year.
Hackman and Bonnie and Clyde.
Yes.
And Hoffman in The Graduate. And both of those movies were so instrumental. They were earth-shaking in terms of the way they changed movie making. They changed cinema. And it's so... What are the odds of that happening?
Oh, exactly.
And
Yeah.
both of them are, not your typical Hollywood leading men.
No, but they used to go up, and when they were living together, they would go up on the top of the roof and bang drums.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them played bongos, and the other played another drum, and they banged. And you want to know why? Because they heard that Marlon Brando was musical and played drums, and they wanted to be just like
They
him.
wanted to tap into whatever that guy
I know.
had figured out.
I know.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me. Also, what an interesting time, the late 60s, that whole period of the Hollywood Golden Age from like 1967 to 1979.
Yes.
Where a character actor, where these people with, very off the beaten path looks, not your beautiful sort of movie star types, where they could become movie stars. I just love that. And again, it speaks to a period when I just believe the audience was smarter. The audience was, it was just the sweet spot in American history for cinema.
Well, what do you think in 1967 when he played Buck Barrow's brother, Bonnie and Clyde?
Yeah.
Is that the first time I really recognized him as a human being and an actor? Because everybody knows 71, The French Connection is the one that
that's when
made his career.
I read that right after Bonnie and Clyde, and an Oscar nomination or win for that performance.
In 67?
Yeah. I think he was nominated at least.
A nomination.
Okay.
Yep.
He thought, okay, here we go. Smooth sailing, right? Oscar nomination. But of course it took a while. Like,
yeah.
He just wasn't an easy person to cast. So yes, 71. He in fact, I read he was offered the role of Mike Brady on the Brady
Bunch. I know.
Did you read that?
Yeah. He also lost the role that Dustin Hoffman won in The Graduate.
Wow, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That is.
Yeah.
Well, because Gene Hackman has looked 57 years old his whole life.
Well, actually,
so that would not work.
He not only did he lose that, I believe he lost also the role of Dad, Mr. Robinson.
Oh my God, he was up for both parts?
Yes, I think so.
That's what I'm talking about. The guy looked like an old man.
I know.
But it served him so well because even in his 60s, he seems younger than his 60s. But and in his 30s, he seemed like he was 60. I just think it's fascinating.
And think about as his career is beginning, then he lands the role in the Poseidon Adventure in 72.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that was his greatest role. In fact, I think he looks back on it and rolls his eyes in his head. But it's another one where he became bankable.
Right. He was a bankable lead.
Yeah.
He's in some ways, in many respects, the American Michael Caine.
Good one. Yeah, I can buy that.
He turns up in a lot of. Here's what's, I think, unique about a performer like Gene Hackman. He is a character actor who was a bankable lead. Who, although he may have starred in some really bad movies and flops, never affected his career because he was a character actor.
Yes, it was. Now there are two films.
Yeah.
One each, one for us.
Yeah.
I'll open mine is about 1995, The Quick and the Dead.
Yes.
All right. And
I know you keep.
I know I do,
spouting
and I
off
realize
about this movie.
that he prepared for that because of your favorite of his.
Which is Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that it's my favorite of his. He's brilliant in that movie. But certainly after that, and I believe he was also nominated for an Oscar for that role, after Unforgiven, he did about 6 Westerns in a row.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he was highly sought after. He was making big paydays. And The Quick and the Dead is, in my estimation, a lesser. It's just a variation of that same part.
Well, to me, it shows that he can have a comedic side to himself.
I'm glad you brought that up, but we have to go. We have to stop.
Oh no!
Now. Yeah, I know.
How can we extend this?
We can extend it by our listeners heading over to the website wcbe.org and listening to the full show, or tuning into Double Take, where we'll go through his filmography. you.